It's like, it's not about what I think. What do you think? Don't ask what I need. Don't ask what the world needs. Don't ask what your partner needs. What do you need? And go and do that. Because I truly believe the world needs people that have come to life.
Welcome to this episode with Pete Klaricich. He's from Corrective Culture and he's a beast, man. Like, he has so much knowledge, and today we go through a lot of the foundational practices for good holistic health and healing and wellness. And he's a CHEK practitioner, and he's making a lot of big moves. And clearly from the episode, you guys can listen, he's an insightful guy with a lot to offer, and so now we're sharing it with you guys. So shout out to Pete for jumping on, really appreciate him, and I hope you guys gain some benefit from this episode. And right before we jump in, I'd be remiss if I didn't add the ebook's still going, guys. The ebook's still going, Referee Psychology. Hit it up on my socials or in the description, and yeah, check it out, man, because it's free money on the table. So without further ado, let's get healthy.
All right, 3 deep breaths. That's my rule before anything meaningful.
Okay.
All right, close the eyes.
All right.
Exhale via the mouth. 2 more. Final one. Man, how much better do you feel from doing that? It's like 3 deep breaths, it's just like gratitude,
It's a good rule. So, man, thanks for being here. I'm going to kick off. So how I usually kick off my podcast, Pete, is that I have like an icebreaker question list, and there's like 23 questions, and I put it through a randomizer before I come in, and it comes up with a random question. And the randomized question that you got, that I did prior to coming here, is, if you could, would you choose to bring someone back to life? And if so, who?
That's a really good question.
Starting off deep.
Yeah, starting off deep. So if I had to think, man, like, I personally wouldn't bring anyone back to life, because I feel as though they left for a reason, and maybe they're meant to be reincarnated in a different life at a different stage. But if I had to choose one person, I'm a huge martial arts fan. I just received my brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu the other day. And I was thinking, just then it come to mind, perhaps like Bruce Lee. And the reason for that, it's so random, right? Maybe just the impact that he had on the world in regards to martial arts. Like, he brought Jeet Kune Do towards the world. He was like the first person in like footage to like do an arm bar. I felt as though in terms of like combat sports, he was just so far ahead of his time. So, man, just imagine that opportunity to like stop, sit down, bring him back, and just like have a bit of a chat and see like what was going through his mind like all those years ago. Yeah,
because he has some good, he left behind some really good lessons, huh? Like, he's got something, is it called like This Is Water or something? No, he's got some sort of...
Yeah, well, his methodology was more so like be like water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, be like water or flow like water. And I think that was one of the most beautiful things that he brought to the world. He really tied in like combat sports and nature, and really like integrated the two together.
Okay, that makes sense considering what you kind of do at the moment.
Exactly, man, exactly. It's sort of like he ties all of the pieces together for people. So
cool,
super cool.
No, that's awesome. I really like that answer. So I want to dive straight in, but I've got kind of a overarching, deeper question to just come straight hard out the gates. Knowing you and knowing that I've worked with you for a little while, I think it's the type of question that is worth kicking off with. Seeing as you seem to be a proponent of having this mindset. And it's, what's your dream?
That's a really good question, man. That's a question, as you know, I ask every single client that ever works with me. It's super important. That to me is the why behind your life force. Yeah, if that makes sense. My dream is to help as many people as I possibly can within this lifetime. And I'm well on the way of doing that. To dive in a little bit deeper, the last, I would say, 2 to 3 shamanic journeys that I've been on have really highlighted to me, and I'm sure we'll dive into the CHEK stuff and what I do and everything like that later, the importance of that food to plate, and then harnessing in like essentially animals that are like grazing off the paddocks, chickens that are roaming free. How do I create a lifestyle where it's like I've actually got animals and then I'm bringing them into my being. So that is actually a dream that I'm working on over the next 5 years, perhaps like finding somewhere to like house some property, have a little bit of an acreage, and then
Okay.
still do like the clients and everything like that. I've got something really big I'm working on. It's actually live in February. I can't announce that
Cool.
right now, which
That's
is
awesome.
super cool. Maybe if we do like a follow-up podcast at some point,
Yeah.
I'll be able to dive a little bit more into it. That's not a dream of mine. That's more so a goal. In the CHEK system, I teach people goals are essentially that lead to the big dream. So at the moment, the thing that I'm launching, which I can't get too specific
fine.
on in February,
Yeah.
that's a goal in mind that will essentially take me towards my dream. But my overarching dream that I've been working on, I would say over the last 12 months that have come to mind through shamanic ceremonies, how do I create their environment to live in harmony with nature? So I don't even have to go to the organic store anymore to go and get my fruits and vegetables. I can literally just walk out into my garden, into my food forest, pick what I need to, bring it into my plate, and then that's sustaining me to then maybe the bigger dream after that.
Okay.
Because if I think of a dream, right, it's like perhaps I'm 31 now. It's like perhaps that's my dream, like, and I hit that by the time I'm 36, and then there'll be something bigger that takes over. It's kind of like you move the goalposts as you grow towards that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to live off the land, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that important to you?
I
why is that your
think there's a
dream?
huge disconnect at the moment between what it is that we feel and what it is that we put into our mouth. So like the 6 foundations that I work with on an everyday basis when I'm dealing with clients are thinking, breathing, movement, hydration, nutrition, and sleep. So nutrition being like a yin principle, it's there to provide you energy to then go and attack your dream. Why that's important to me, man, is because it's like I think it's just lost in the world at the moment. I think like I grew up in a family of farmers, right? Like all of my family were
Cool.
like tobacco, pumpkins, hay, heaps of different things, tea tree, heaps of different things, mangoes, heaps of different things over the
Sick.
years. And when I go and visit my family up in far north Queensland, I feel that. And how would you say it? It's not really like ancestry. It's more so like I feel that within my bloodline. I feel like that might be my destiny one day to live that out. And that's a really important thing to distinguish as well when working with people. And that's even with myself as well. Like, is that my dream or is that something that I've inherited along the way also? So that's something that only you as an individual really, no one can really dive into. But for me, it's like that. When I imagine I'm like 45 and with my partner at the moment, we've got 2 kids, I want to teach them all of the ethical values that I grew up by. And that's how to go and pick your own food, how to live off the land, how to even like pick up a tool and then know its application. It's just being handy essentially within life. And I think in today's day and age, like right now, it's like I live in a beautiful space, like right on the beach. I wake up every morning, I walk across the road and it's like I get that sunlight on my eyes and that's amazing. But it's like, it's not land, it's not room. It's like you're still confined and constricted within the cities, if that makes sense. And even the big towns like the Sunshine Coast. So that's my dream, and nothing major, but acreage, food forest, retreats, jiu-jitsu gym, clients still one-on-one, and then when I launch this bad boy in February, and I'm just going to watch all of these pieces come together as it has been over the last few years. So it's been
Amazing,
cool.
man. Yeah, it's cool to hear that because, as you said, you ask all your clients what's their dream, and I didn't know what yours was. Like,
Yeah.
I know that you're very passionate about what you do. You can really see that as it comes through. But yeah, I just didn't know what the big picture was, so that's cool to hear. I'm sure that'll be cool for a lot of people to hear. So you mentioned your parents or your family. In your family, like you grew up like with farmers and things like that. Do you think that's what kind of put you on this trajectory towards like holistic health and like wellness and living off the land, all this? Or do you think there was something else like that happened in your life that put you on this path that you're on? Because everyone's doing all different things out here. Like what was it that put you on this journey?
That's a really good question. I would say that definitely played a significant role. Like, how can it not, right? It's like whenever we're doing like memory style work or inner child work with people, if you imagine, it's like you have to go back to those deep states of memory. It's like the deep unconscious that lives within each of us. So of course that plays its own part with like the way that I grew up and my values and my ethics and my morals. It's like my code of conduct. I would say what led me towards that was actually like the fact that when I finished high school, I became an electrician. and I was miserable during my apprenticeship. It taught me a lot of valuable skills. It taught me communication, taught me like a great work ethic, but it wasn't my purpose. It wasn't my dream. It wasn't something that I was destined to do, I guess you
So
would
you
say.
went to uni to do mechanics?
No, electrical.
Oh, yeah,
So
right.
I was electrician.
Yep.
And then I went and did my second trade as electrical and instrumentation technician. And I worked my way up and worked for every major company that you could think of in the
Really?
oil and gas and mining industry. Rio Tinto,
For how long?
BHP, Santos.
Few years?
Years. Yeah,
Wow.
years. Yeah. And that's what really catapulted me into this line of work, I would say.
So you were fully in the race.
I was in the race, man.
In the
I
9
was,
to 5.
yeah, up until I was 21.
Mm.
And then when I was 22, I packed up everything. I quit my job and I went traveling the world. And that was the story of my life really throughout my whole 20s, right up until COVID hit. And maybe that's one of the gifts that COVID gave me, was just like that ability to really sit still and decide like, who are you? What do you want to provide? One of the gifts that I think, and I always say to people, like traveling gives you, it's like it's an experience at the end of the day. And when you bring those experiences back into your being, it's like then it's like your eyes are wide open, I guess you'd say. And then it's more so like, what do I want to do with that information? What do I want to do with that knowledge? What do I want to provide to the world? Like, what do I want for my community? Deeper things like that. I think it was a combination, to answer your questions, of upbringing, traveling extensively for all of those years, coming home, being in the same position I was when I was 21 at about 27, like at one of the lowest points in my life, where I was making more money than I knew what to do with, but I was completely miserable, and I was only working 5 months of the year. And so it was time for change. And so I think it was a catalyst of all of those things that really come together.
Yeah, right.
And there's always a risk involved with that, right? Because you never leap from where you are and you head straight towards where you want to go. It's like that can sometimes take years. And I mean years and years. So I had to ask myself a pretty deep, dark, and truthful question, like, what's next for me? And I started studying under the CHEK Institute, and I become a yoga teacher. I now do like anatomy trains, body work, and I truly believe I'm living my dream, and I'm living on my own accord now, and I think that's like power within its truest form.
Amazing, man. Thanks. Thanks for giving me that background. So, okay. So you're the health guy now.
Yeah.
Sort of. In a way. Like, to put it exceptionally, like, simplified. Cool. I see the work you're doing. I see that you're helping people out of pain, out of disease, all this stuff, right? And you do that through your works with like pull check and anatomy trains, all this stuff. Is that a pretty good summary?
Yeah, that's a really
quick?
good summary. I would say it's unique what I do, because a lot of people ask me like, who are you and what do you do? And it's like, my name's Pete and I'm a CHEK practitioner. And most people say like, they don't even know what CHEK is. And most people don't in Australia, and that's fine too. But CHEK stands for Corrective Holistic Exercise Kinesiology, which is really just a study of the human being and human development. And you see where people get stuck in life, and it's a holistic system, and it's been around for a very long time, and it's successful because it works, and it really helps people. And so I tie in the CHEK work. So I finished my 3 years studying through the CHEK Institute with Anatomy Trains, who was founded by Thomas Myers. So that's more so like fascial lines that govern the body through structural body work. And I also did yoga teaching as well for 2.5 years. I think I must have taught 200 to 300 classes. So and I really tie the body work in with the mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of yoga, in with the human development side of CHEK, and then working in along the lines of like nutrition and everything we spoke about before. So it's like, it's a lot, but it's actually really simple.
Cool. Okay, so you've studied this a lot. So what I want to know is why, in the most health-obsessed culture we've ever had, I presume, it just seems to be everywhere, why is everyone so sick?
That's a great question. I think people are confused. I think knowledge is absolutely everywhere in today's day and age. It's like, you can look up on YouTube, you can look on Google. It's like, what's health? And you'll get an array of different answers. When really it's like, health is found within the within the simplicity of things. Yeah, that's what I would deem health. And I think there's just so much confusion out there. The 6 foundation principles that I touched on before.
Jump in.
I truly believe that's where most people come undone. Like I've mentioned this to you before, but it's like every single client I've ever had, and I do about 40 to 50 clients a fortnight at the moment. Like, it's a lot. Like, I'm hustling hard, like I'm helping a lot of people to the capacity in which I can, and my bucket is completely full and my cup is completely full. But I do believe that most people come to you within one of the 6 reasons, and that's thinking, breathing, movement as our yang principle. So if you think of like the Chinese philosophy of like the Tao, it's like yang, energy out. Hydration, nutrition, and sleep for our yin principles. I believe they're out of balance in multiple or at least one of those 6 foundation principles. And so that is why the world is so sick.
That's simple.
Yeah,
It's just the foundations.
It's the foundations, man, because they're universal to everyone. It's like when you come to me and it's like, and not even you specifically, it's like it's anyone, right? It's like, I want to check what water they're drinking. I want to check what food they're eating. I want to check how they're breathing. I want to check how they're moving. Can they push? Can they pull? Can they bend? Can they lunge? Can they twist? Can they squat? Can they gait? The 7 primal patterns. If they can't, then we know pain arises from that, because we use those primal patterns for God knows how many thousands of years. So somewhere within those 6 foundations lays the problem. And part of my job and part of the individual's job that comes to me is to try and do a deep dive into those 6 and to try and work out, where are they stuck?
Okay, shall we do a shallow dive?
Let's do it.
Shall we? Okay, because if this is the foundations of the pillars of health that people are lacking, that you're seeing people are lacking, it's the reason everyone's so sick. Let's do a shallow dive.
Let's do it.
So what's the first one? Like thinking or something?
Thinking. And so if you think like thoughts, you can
think,
only
man.
you think, but you can only think correctly if you're hydrated correctly, if you sleep correctly,
Okay.
if you eat correctly,
So if you
breathe correctly. Breathing is huge, and I'm sure I'll jump into the totem pole later.
Sure. Yeah.
But it sits second on top. It's like, if you're not breathing correctly, there's 25,000 times a day on average the average human being breathes. And if you have an inverted breathing pattern where you can't breathe 2/3 into the belly, 1/3 into the chest, then that's going to be problematic for the rest of the system. Okay. And so that's going to change your thoughts directly.
So real quick,
interjection.
How does someone know if they breathe correctly? Because most people that you come across, you're probably going to be like, hey, man, do you know how to breathe properly? They'll be like, I do it all the time.
They just do it all the time wrong.
I do it all the time, man. I'm breathing. What do you want from me?
Yeah, well, they come and see someone like me. Someone that can check the breath.
Okay.
Someone that can assess the breath. Someone that can check the core. Someone that can assess to see where the individual is at on their journey towards
some sort of breath work technique? Is
Yeah,
there something people can do?
And I'm really happy you brought this up, okay? Because I get a lot of breathwork clients that come and see me, and they go, I do breathwork every single morning. And I'm a big proponent for breathwork, okay? Like, I come from the yogic background. It's like, I believe in pranayama. Like, I believe the world needs more prana, like life force energy within them.
Okay.
But if you think of it from an anatomy point of view, if you have fascial restrictions, say in between the intercostals, which is like in between the rib cage, unless you've had hands-on body work, or you've got a tool, or you've had a massage, like someone particular with a massage that knows what they're doing, getting in between those stuck spots and actually releasing the diaphragm and releasing the fascia, so the individual can breathe laterally and posteriorly into the back of the ribs. Because when you look into the diaphragm, right, it's like this 360-degree view. It's not just anteriorly where we breathe in towards the front of the stomach. It's like this full...
It's like a balloon.
It's like a balloon. Yeah. It's like this full view. And most people at ISS can't do that. So back to your initial question, why does thinking matter in regards to the breath? I believe that you can only think right if you breathe correctly.
Okay. That's interesting, because it was funny. I was watching this movie, man. I wasn't sure I would bring it up, but don't ask why. It was called My Girl 2.
Okay, I definitely haven't seen it.
It's such a... I don't know why. It just popped up. I just watched it. Anyway, it was very simplistic. But there was one line that stuck with me. And the little girl came across a little boy who was angry. She goes up to him and she goes, do you have an anger problem, or is it just a chemical imbalance? And I was like... Holy Holy shit, like that's actually kind of true, right?
It's true,
because
man.
if you're not doing these like basic things like breathing and putting the right nutrition in, the chemicals in your body aren't functioning properly. You have these problems.
Exactly. It's like, and back to what I initially said, like when we began the podcast, like the complexity is found within the simplicity. It's like, I think a lot of times people are searching for the answers outside of themselves. They want a little magic pill, you know, a special bar that's going to fix everything. And it's like a one-stop shop. It's not. It has to be something a little bit deeper than that. And doesn't mean the problem's like anything that's beyond you. Perhaps it is just something as simple as like changing your water and getting off tap water so you can think clearly. Because if you think about it, man, we currently live in an age where it's like never before in human history have we sprayed glyphosate, pesticides, chemicals, herbicides all over our food. And then you got to then start to ask the question like, well, what correlation does that have towards stress? What correlation does that have towards obesity? What correlation does that have towards mental health? It's like, it makes sense to me. And I haven't had a client yet that's been able to prove me wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a journey that every person has to go on and feel within themselves. It's like, because you might think that, like you said before, that you're thinking correctly and you're breathing correctly, but unless you actually go to that next stage and release the diaphragm, like I said, and get on some organic food and change your water and get 8 hours sleep, you may not know what good feels like. And the reason I say that is because I had a client come to me yesterday, actually. He was 36. He signed on for the first time. He's in for a number of sessions. I'd say I'll be working with him for quite some time. And he's like, he was a musician, and he traveled a pretty good chunk of the world, like listening to his story. And he thought he was healthy, and he was drinking 10 beers a day for God knows how. He's like 10, 12 years.
And he thought he was healthy.
And he thought he was healthy, and he thought he was like feeling pretty good.
Oh.
And he come and see me, and he's in a much better state now, of course. Like, you know, he's had a lot of work done, like in the last 2 years, which is pretty cool. And now he's at a point where he's like, man, I used to think that I was like feeling pretty good, that beers didn't affect me and things like that. It's like the delusion. It's like, of course it affects you. So now he's at a point where he's like, no, fuck, now I know what good feels like. Like, this is what good feels like. And it's kind of like the veil of like the curtain. Like, once you feel good and you know what that feels like, there's no going back, because now you've had a taste of like what the real human experience feels like.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Because you're right. Like, most people, like, I speak to people all the time. Like, I don't want to say any names here. But like, I speak to people all the time, and they think they're so they think they're healthy. They ask, why am I in pain? But they don't actually answer the question. And they go, oh, like, this sucks, like, I've got this problem, my knees niggling, my hips niggling, I'm so unlucky. Like, what's the problem? Oh, life's against me, whatever. And I look at these guys, I'm like, bro, you literally just ate Macca's like 6 times in the last week.
Yeah.
You don't go to the gym. You don't get out in the sun. You just sit at a desk all day. And it's like, and then you go home and watch Netflix and go to bed at 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. It's like, I don't know, like, people seem to be a little bit in denial about like where they stand.
Yeah, well, I'd say as well, man, like, most people don't know any different. Like, most people think it's okay to watch TV with blue light until 10 o'clock at night. Most people think it's okay to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and miss the first rays. Most people think it's okay to just do shopping at Coles and Woolworths and not going to your local, markets. It's
you
like,
just triggered like 80% of people.
That's fine.
They're like, oh shit.
Because the truth triggers people. It's
Yep.
like because the truth has a frequency and a vibration to it, and people get triggered by that because there's something there for them, and they know that.
Okay. So you're about to tell people to stop shopping at Woolies, stop using blue light till 10 p.m. and stop whatever the other thing you said.
You do what you can when you can. And
Okay.
look, it doesn't mean that you come in and you change your whole life and you dust your hands off and everything's all sorted within 6 months. I ask people to go on like a 2-year journey. Like change one thing a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So like it's like the profoundness is found within the small things, and the small things then lead to the big changes.
Okay. So I'm thinking of a person here, and they're all of these things that you just described, the 6 foundations, whatever, they're all a bit out of whack. This person just wants to help their health. They don't know, like, they're feeling overwhelmed. So what I want to know is there some sort of like hierarchy that comes in with all this? Because are you telling me that Joe Blow, who's bloody listening to this, who doesn't breathe properly, who eats Maccas 6 times a week, who watches blue light till 10 p.m. should go and switch out straight to spring water, like right away? Or is that a 1%er? How do these people go from where they are and start this journey of actually healing themselves?
They change the things they're willing to look at that time in their life. Yeah. Does that make sense?
How so?
So
they change the things. Say that again.
Yeah. So they change the things that they're ready to change at that time
okay.
in their life.
Got you.
And so what I mean by that, it's maybe they're not ready to change water this year. Maybe that's next year. Maybe they just want to work on their breath this year. Maybe they just want to work on their thoughts this year. For me, and they're working with me and they're paying me money as a service, it's I'm going to be pretty stern on let's try and change the water as quickly as we can. Part of my reasoning for that is because your body's made of water. You're actually more water than you're not. So when I have clients that come to me and they try and convince me and tell me that water doesn't matter, it's but that's actually all that you are. On a molecular level, it's you're 99.99% water.
Yeah, right. So
water matters. And then if you think of the additives that come into water in today's day and age, chlorine, fluoride, all of these other nasties, it's not once within the human experience within thousands of years have we ever diluted our entire system to the capacity we are now. And so it's then you got to think what link does that have to the rest of the body? What link does that have towards our thoughts? Back to what we were saying before.
Yeah, right. Were there any other of the 6 foundations that's worth touching on, or shall we swing
I
through?
think they're all worth touching on.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're all worth touching. It's just a time thing.
Yeah.
But let's jump into the next one.
Okay, yeah. Now, if we look at the totem pole, I imagine considering the very top of the totem pole is the psyche. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's our thoughts.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, cha-ching. He's on. He's on.
Okay, we're on now. If this is the top of the totem pole, if this is the step 1 in creating any change, if somebody has slave limb issues.
Yeah, good.
And they need to have the psyche down. Tell me, how do we get this psyche in line so that everything else can fall into place?
Beautiful.
I guess to even clarify the question more, how actually do we change our psyche to create long-lasting change and actually stick to it? Because reason I bring this up is too many people are in this vicious cycle of 8-week challenges, diets, these almost bipolar episodes of going real hard and then real soft, all in, all out. And it's it's a cycle, and they're not creating long-term change. They're creating short-term change and then losing all the results are unraveling. So I'm presuming this type of person should probably look at the top to start. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. And look, tools that you can apply, I automatically think right then, when it comes to mind, it's Dr. Quiet. So things that can affect the psyche are meditation, actually being finding stillness within your thoughts. If you don't have the capacity to close your eyes, it's start with a candlelight meditation. Start where you can. Yeah. Qigong. Time by yourself, amongst the trees. Just get out of the chaos. Yeah, get out of the chaos. Every person is different. It's not we have some type of because we're not psychologists, right? It's if people have really deep, dark stuff that's where I refer out. Much as I'm a one-stop shop for a lot of people, it's I recognize I can't do everything either. Yeah. So that's where it's if cases are a little bit beyond me, it's I'd refer out. But there are some great, there are some journaling, like we said before, there are some great tools that I think almost any person can use.
What's your opinion on why people fall off the wagon after 8 weeks or so?
Oh, that's a great question. So that's back to the psyche and that's back to the why. Yeah, they haven't established the why that's deep enough. Yeah.
Okay.
So Friedrich Nietzsche once said, and this is a really good quote, it's he who has a why can bear almost any how. Yeah, and you really stop and think about that. He who has a why can bear almost any how.
I love it, man. I love it. It's almost also... Nah, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there, man. I'm not going to go there. So for people who are trying to create this change, right? You actually first, let's just go through what's some low-hanging fruit that people can do that are listening right now that you think are practical steps that people can tick off, like, oh yeah, I do this thing, I do this thing, I do this thing. If we could make like a little bit of a practical thing for people real quick in terms of how they can start moving towards better health and happiness and quiet and sleep and whatever, like, is there certain low-hanging fruit things that people can do, like get outside or like do a journaling practice? Like, what's like the simple things that take 20% of the effort that yield 80% of the results?
So living in alignment with nature.
Okay.
So that might be getting up with the sun, getting up with the birds. Like, you ever see birds sleep in? You ever see like a snake that's overweight?
True.
It's like, if you really think about it, it's like we're a part of that. Yeah. So it's like simple things that people can do, like things that come to mind. It's like live via your circadian rhythm. And another thing that comes to mind, it's like write a plan down. Like, no one plan. It's like we write lists for when we go to the grocery store. We write plans for work and business strategies, but it's like no one ever stops and thinks like, what about a plan for your life? It doesn't have to be like this major 10-year quest that you go on, but it could just be like something ever so small, like, this is where I want to be 12 months from now. And that's almost every client that I come on, I really try and get them to ask the deeper questions like that. It's like, where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 2 years from now? Where are you 5 years from now? Bigger the goal, bigger the outcome.
Okay, I got a really hard question for you.
Do it.
What if they don't know?
Yeah, and most people don't. Yeah, most people don't. But
Cool. That's actually pretty comforting for
Yeah.
the people that say, I don't know what I want to do in a year, 2 years, because that's I think that's one of the scariest thoughts. Like, I don't know what the meaning for my life is. I don't know what my goal is. I don't know, like.
But pushing it to the side is never going to provide you with the answer. That's another thing that I would say as well. It's like you have to be willing to go there within your own time. And what I mean by that is, of course, it's uncomfortable. You think like when I was an electrician and I was working out in the mines and I was in the oil and gas, and man, some days were like some of the lowest points of my life, but I was making more money than I knew what to do with, but I was at like the lowest point, and it was like, well, what am I going to do here? Just wallow in my shit for the rest of my life? It's like, let's make a bit of a plan. Let's make a plan and let's plan as far as I can. Let's do a 3-month plan. Maybe I'll start with this course. Maybe this interests me. And that's where like you can really like follow your intuition a little bit. But it grows as it needs to. It's like, because as we grow towards our goals, so do our goals. Yeah.
I like it. It sounds like a quote that I heard. It's very cliche, I think, but it's kind of like, if you can't see the whole staircase, take the first step kind of thing.
Exactly.
And one thing that kind of helped me, man, is it really actually got me out of a rut. I was so busy thinking about the bigger picture for everything, like, oh, what's my meaning? What's my goal? Like everything. And it really fucked with me, man.
It does. It fucked with me too, man. It fucks with most people. That's why you need to do it strategically, and don't put like a time frame on it. It doesn't have to be like, by this Christmas I need to know what my deepest purpose is. It's like, who says who? Like, no, you don't. Maybe you just need to take 1 or 2 steps, and that's where like here's where the foundations tie in, right? Because unless you can think correctly, you're probably never going to come up with the most optimal result that you could. So that's why it's so important for almost every single human being on the planet, if it is within their capability, to live within the domain of those 6 foundation principles. Perhaps then the universe will provide them with the answers that they're longing for.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one, man. It's like, I would say, and
because it's like it's almost like, it's really tough because it's almost like, think better.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not think better. It's, I think maybe another way to put that might be, take 5 minutes a day to yourself and journal. Yeah.
Cool.
Or have open, conscious conversations with people. Find safe people around you where you can talk to this stuff about, not just bottle it up in your head. It's like we're really just how do you put it? Like, sometimes you need help in life, and it's okay to ask. Yeah, if it's outside of yourself, that's okay. But don't go along with the story that, oh, I don't know my purpose by 25, because I didn't either. When I was off traveling the world and I was in this country and that, I had no idea. I just knew I wanted to go on one big experience, and then at the end of it, maybe that experience would lead to something. So you just start with where you can. Like, if you were to say to me 3-5 years ago, I'd be sitting right here talking about all this stuff, and this is what I do now with my life, I'd say, fuck no, I don't think that's how I hope that's how my life plays out, but there's no knowing that. And so it's essentially just like one foot in front of the other, baby steps that then essentially lead to like the grand change.
Yeah, I like it, man.
Because people love the idea of just jumping to Mount Everest in one step. But even if I look at like when I look at like when I was an electrician, and I look at the steps that I had to take in place to get to where I got to, I felt like, by the time I left my electrical career, it was like I felt like I'd climbed to the top of Mount Everest. It was like there was nowhere else to go apart from managerial roles. And that didn't happen overnight. That was working for this small company, just doing domestic work, to then I'm going to go do a bit of commercial, a bit of industrial. And then slow and steady, you just start to walk the staircase until it leads you to the divinity of where it is that you would like to end up. And we don't always know. And that's the beautiful thing about the journey of life. It's like, just take the first step and see where it takes you.
Yeah, you're not even climbing Mount Everest. You're like, there isn't a mountain to climb. There's not like a place you're supposed to be. It's almost like you're building your mountain as you go, because there is no like, you're not getting to some place. You're creating that place like as you go up.
Absolutely, and you can never really see around the corner. So yeah, super insightful stuff. But I think I think it comes down to fear in today's day and age. Like, that's one of the number one things that like I find with people's paperwork and spending lots and like when I have, say, an hour with someone on the table and I'm getting into their fascia, and they're telling me about like what it is, because like fascia holds memory, it stores emotions. It's like a body really, and a mental, emotional, and spiritual state really live within us, right?
Sure.
And then as the session's going on, as I'm getting to certain parts of the body, they'll start to open up a little bit more and open up a little bit more. And one of the main points that I come back to, it's like most people are too afraid to just take the first step, or just to go for what they want. But maybe that's one of the gifts that traveling give you. It's like, we're here for such a short period of time, and then we're gone. And then that's it. And then your life's fucking done. And then you never got what you wanted because you weren't willing to take that first step. And so it comes back to like, clients are always like, what do you think? And it's like, it's not about what I think. What do you think? Don't ask what I need. Don't ask what the world needs. Don't ask what your partner needs. What do you need? And go and do that. Because I truly believe the world needs people that have come to life.
That was sick. Yeah, that really hit me. One thing that came through at one point, I just thought I'd share because I think it's quite powerful. Have you heard of the book, The Boy, the Horse, the Fox, and the Mole?
I actually haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay.
So what was the title again?
The Boy, the Horse, the Fox, and the Mole.
The Boy, the Horse, the Fox.
I might have one of them mixed up around. I'm not sure.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
But it's a very simple children's book with very deep philosophical lessons.
Like most children's stories, man, it's like they're archetypical for a reason. It's the hero's journey that's played out constantly over and over again.
True. And I believe it was the horse who was asked in this story, what's the most courageous thing you've ever said? And you know what it was? Help. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I need help.
Yeah.
Like that is something. And he was surrounded by all his friends that he had on his journey, and because they were able to help him, he ended up being able to flourish towards what he wanted to accomplish. And it's like it's a good one. It's kind of like, because when you were saying before, it's like sometimes you do just need some help, and sometimes that can really get you out of ruts. Like, I needed help a while ago, and it really got me out of some ruts. Like, it really did.
Absolutely.
And I need help right now. Like, I'm literally hiring you to help me into my health and wellness. And it's like, yeah, I feel like too often we try to do things alone, and it's just not effective.
Yeah, there's balance in that, right? It's like some people are just too independent, or they try and take on the world by themselves. But we have a really good model within the CHEK system called creating your dream team. Yeah, and what that means is find people around you that aren't going to sabotage you, aren't going to hold you back, aren't going to pull you down when you rise to that next step or the next level. Find people around you that are actually going to help you on your journey, because you can't do it all alone.
I love it, man.
Back on that as well,
yes.
Another point that I think like listeners would really benefit from, it's like, we have this saying at work, right, at Corrective Culture, and it is very true. It's like show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And maybe more so the truth in that is like, show me your habits and I'll show you your destiny. And the reason for that is because you are what you repeatedly do, but you also are a product of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. Yeah. So if the 5 people that hang around you the most pull you down on your own hero's journey, heading towards where it is that you intend to go, then you need to find yourself a new set of friends. And that's a really deep question that I think a lot of people need to ask along the way, because people come and go.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's a tough one, man. Yeah, it's a tough one.
That's a reality check right there.
It's a reality check, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you need a dream team, and you can't do it all by yourself. Yeah. Super important. It's even like me at the moment, man. I'm flooded with messages every day from people like trying to book in. It's like, I'm fully booked. I'm going to take a wait list next year. But now I'm finally at the point where it's like I'm asking people for help. Like, I've got my partner that's doing all of my social media at the moment. I'm going to be dropping back Wednesdays next week and only working like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, the occasional Saturday, creating that work-life balance. And I think that's just like going to be a beautiful way for me to fill up my own cup as well, and then have a little bit more clarity on like, I guess, like how we started with the bigger picture.
So you speak about balance.
Mm-hmm.
What is balance?
Now that's a hard question.
Because it seems to elude me all the time. Like, I have been the type of person in the past who's been very all in, all out, and like super like, man, like I'll push myself to the point of burnout, and then I'll sleep for a week, and then I'll just repeat the process. And it's like, what am I doing? Like, and I can't figure out what balance is.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the experience of life. Then we all go through that journey, right? It's like, what is balance? That's a really deep, it's also simple, and it's back to that yin and yang principle, because and I'll take you on a bit of a journey up to the 4 doctors, and that might explain balance a little bit more.
I'm ready.
So when we spoke about the psyche before, and when people come and work with us, I want to know what their one love is. Okay. So that's the pillar number 1. What is your one love? What is your why behind why it is that you're here? What matters enough to you within your life to evoke change? Yeah. The second pillar is 2 forces. So back to the yin and the yang, the Tao, understanding where am I at within each choice of my life, within the 2 most dominant forces that there are. So our yang, which is energy out, catabolic, yin, energy in.
Okay.
Yeah, anabolic, right? Cool. Okay. So that's the 2 forces that really govern the entire universe, but also govern our universe. It's like, am I 2 yin, 2 yang? Where am I? Because you never, like, listen, I've never met anyone that tripped upon their dream. Yeah, it's like, it takes, I think, like a lot of work, and it takes like a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Devotion. Yeah, it takes a lot of devotion towards yourself, I think, to get there. And so that's where you have to be honest with yourself heading in towards the 3 choices, which is our third pillar. So am I making the most optimum decision or optimal decision? Am I making a suboptimal decision, which would be like back to the McDonald's 6 days a week? Or am I making no indifference? And indifference is actually the worst choice of all, because it's the one that you sit on the fence. It's like you don't even learn anything from. It's like the girl you never asked out, the podcast you never started, the job you never went for. You're sitting on you're too scared to fail. I can't give that a go. It's too hard.
Someone told me once, when I was asking someone like what to do about something, he goes to me, Nathan, you realize that making no choice is a choice.
It is a choice.
And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, it is a choice.
I was like, damn, like always making no decision, man. And it's like, damn, like making no choice is like perhaps the worst choice, because you're just getting pushed around by life to whatever, it wants. And it's like, you're not moving towards anything. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, you're making no indifference. It was like me years ago, like, when I was an electrician, it's like, I'm actually going to go for something. I'm actually going to go and start studying the things that I want to study, or am I just going to sit on the fence and be miserable and kick stones? It all comes down to a choice at the end of the day. And I think an important point to finish on in regards to the choices is when you start making more optimal choices than you make suboptimal choices, then your life will start moving forward at the rate that it should and could, if that makes sense. And only, like, everyone knows what they are. Like, everyone knows what the optimum choice is.
Yeah.
We have that intuition within us. It's like, does that feel right? Is that right for me? Should I go work with that person?
Yeah, right. And lots of people are just disconnected from it.
Most people are just disconnected from that.
Yeah. And like so much so that they don't actually know what their intuition is almost anymore, because I've been in that point where I was literally like, there's so much stimulus, like I don't know what's like optimal or suboptimal. I don't know how my body's feeling, because I'm almost what's the word? I'm gonna get it.
You got it.
It's like a disconnect. What's it called in psychology when you disconnect your mind from your body? Nah, I'm not gonna get it.
You're good.
Okay.
That's cool. But back to your initial question, what is balance? Balance is found in all things and in all choices. It's like people that go for their dreams, but then they go 100 miles an hour and then they're burnt out a week later, like you mentioned before. Wouldn't it be more sustainable if you just find balance within each of the choices, and then that can sustain you along your journey towards your dream? Balance is something that I think needs to be felt. It needs to be lived. It needs to be embodied. It's not something that can just be handed to you. So every single individual on the face of the earth, I think, has to go out and work that out for themselves.
It's different for
It's
everyone.
different for everyone, because what's balanced for me won't be balanced for you and won't be balanced for the next person. I know what balance is for me. I know what balance is for me, but I don't know what balance is for other people. So that's where it's like you can stop and you sit down with people and you try and work that out. Like, well, would this be too much for you? Like, can you give me 4 days a week with the program? You know, if not, I can't induce any postural change. And they might say, oh, well, you know, I walk the dogs these days and myself and my partner like doing this on this day. And yeah, maybe I can do 4. Okay, 4's good. Like, let's move forward with 4. So yeah, every person is different in that regard.
Sweet, man. Sweet. So as people go out after this podcast to, there's probably been some thoughts come through people's head. Very least, it's sparked this feeling of, maybe I should look at myself and try to learn more about my health and wellness. Like, very least, maybe that's what's come up.
And maybe it's not health and wellness. Maybe it's just learn more about yourself. Yeah, that's a really old idea, right? To know thyself. That stems well beyond health and wellness. That stems to you and
that's the psyche.
That's the psyche.
Top. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people right now have that voice in the back of their head. They're like, maybe I should try and investigate more of this so I can live a life that I want to live. There's a lot of information out there, man.
Yeah.
There's an old quote, we're drowning in information but starving for wisdom. How do we navigate the abundance of influences we have all around us that is manipulating our beliefs, our opinions, our thoughts? Like, people who are going out there to try and better themselves. How do they discern what's true, what's fake? Like, there's Macca's ads on the signs telling you that it's, I don't know, dairy-free ice cream. They're like, oh, sweet. Yes, that's me, healthy. Like, I don't know. That was a weird example, but you know what I mean? Like, there's manipulation everywhere. How do we discern, you know, what to look at, what to not? How do people continue this journey?
Yeah, I think if it feels right, man. Like, you know, like when you're on, just say use social media for an instance, right? And it's like maybe you want to book an appointment with someone. Like, actually stop for a second and look at the content or the material. Does that actually resonate with you? Like, can you see yourself working with that person? Can they provide you with something that you can't find within yourself? That's, I think, like where you can start. And I fully get it, man. It's like I was lost for a certain amount of time as well. And that's, I think, why like systems lead the way. And when you can find systems, like I think like when I first started with the CHEK Institute, the first 12 months and taking on a few clients here and there, I really tried to prove certain aspects of it wrong, and I couldn't. Yeah. And then I started like living that within myself and teaching and preaching that, not preaching, but helping other people.
So you took the information, you experimented with it, found that it was good, used it.
And now I apply that. And now that's like my business model, right?
Well, there you go.
It's like 60% of my business is really like anatomy trains, which is like fascial structural body work, where essentially like I help people out of pain. And the other 40% is all the CHEK work, where people come through movement programs with me, and I take them from really a point in their life where they feel pretty stuck to where they feel unified within themselves. So it's a tough one. I guess maybe there's some trial and error there in terms of like you know, find a few different people, like start to ask the questions, start to do a bit of a Google, but don't just sit there and do nothing, because to do nothing is once again to live in indifference.
Yeah. And also almost by doing nothing, that is like not applying what you learn as well. Like there's a lot of people out here. There's a kind of term being thrown around at the moment called mental masturbation, and people are just consuming, but that's not learning, because you're just viewing mad amounts of information without applying it. That's really not. That is doing nothing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Because you're constantly flooded with new information. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I like what you said around like the trial and error. Like for you literally just took this information, applied it. The proof was in the pudding. Build a fucking business around it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And go and study for 3 years. You know, there's a lot of commitment in that.
Yeah.
And I think as well, oftentimes we're drawn to work with people, and so that might come to intuition if people have that, innate intuition within them. It's like I had this lady come to me with back pain a few months ago. I get a lot of back pain clients, but this one was, unique because hers was all mental and emotional. And so I had to take her through the journey of, long story short, she had spinal surgery, L5S1, not fused, just essentially where they shave parts of the vertebrae off to create more space. And then if you imagine the multifidus, which is like under stretch, and so, the core's not working correctly, and they've gone in, they've cut all the fascia around it. And she's come to me for rehab, but she got a little bit more than she bargained for, because within the paperwork, it's like we dive into what are the 5 biggest stresses within your life. And we got down to the simple fact that actually her back pain, it stemmed well beyond the physical. It was all mental, emotional, and a little bit spiritual. And what I mean by that, I don't just say it and then have no proof. It's like she'd been in an on-off 8-year trauma bond relationship with this guy who lived overseas. And she felt within her body this sense of like not feeling safe, not feeling secure, constantly on edge, constantly sympathetically driven. And her body would tell her, even when he flies into the country, and she's got no contact with him. So that's where the mental, emotional, and spiritual can tie into the physical.
Yeah.
And so I worked with her for months, and she's at a really good place now, where we've rehabbed her back. We've gotten to the bottom of some things. I've given her lots of homework to move past that, because that can't be... I truly believe, unless you get down to the root cause of it, like what's actually driving that back pain, if it's not just, because back pain is never just back pain, right? Yeah. It always stems from something a little bit deeper than that.
For sure.
She knows, because she was, like shedding a few tears as you do, because the body holds, memory and things like that. And stories to a certain extent. She knows that in order to fully heal her back pain completely, to the point one day in her life where she can pick up her kids and play and have fun, she'll need to come to some type of decisive decision about what she would like to do within that situation.
Yeah. Gabor Mate says, when you can't say no, the body says it for you. It's kind of like, if you're not going to make decisions in your life, like your body's going to be screaming for you to change, and until you listen, you're going to continue to be in pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of that mental emotional.
Absolutely. That mental emotional component, absolutely. And that's a really good point that I think you just brought up in regards to change, because that's really like the topic of today's discussion, right? It's like transformation and change. It's like that's what really like what we're on about.
That's what we ended up going.
Yeah, that's what we ended up going down here. If you really think about it, it's like there's ways to access. It doesn't always have to be physical. For that lady that I just described, hers had to be physical to repair her back, so she could actually just sit in her car and drive for more than an hour without being in excruciating pain. Or you can get through it directly through the mental and emotional. Maybe that's more of like the, psychiatrist, psychologist side of things. Different avenues lead you to the same result. Yeah, but it's still the root cause that you need to dive and search for.
So if you go and see Pete and you've got a sore knee, he's going to ask you about your childhood trauma. So look out, come prepared.
I don't always. It depends where they're at. I feel their energy. I don't always. If they're just coming in for body work, it's like I don't always go there. I might have a little bit of a chat to them about food and water, but it's like they're not paying me for that. They're paying me for structural body work. If they're coming to me for the full CHEK program, they're going to get the full CHEK program.
I like it, man. Yeah. Nicely done.
It's like you deliver what they're ready for. Yeah. Give them what they want, and it's more so like then essentially like you provide them with what they need long term. Yeah.
I like it. That's great, man. Look, we've gone for quite some time. I think I'm going to start wrapping it up. I think that was super valuable. At the end of my podcast, I'm going to continue, even though I rebranded my podcast to The Cross Factor.
Cool.
It previously was Behind the Whistle and it was all about basketball. And my finishing segment would be like shot clock questions. So shot clock would be on. You got 24 seconds to try and answer the question.
Cool. 24 seconds each question or?
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
each
cool.
question. But I'm still playing around with it. This is ever evolving. If anyone made it this far, you're about to hear some shot clock questions. So yeah, I've got like 5 questions here and I just want you to try and answer within 24 seconds.
Cool.
Okay. The first one is fast as you can. Give me a snippet.
Now I'm nervous.
Give me a snippet, insight into some key habits that you do every day as a non-negotiable.
Meditation, jump in the ocean, sauna and ice bath, but they're
Every
not
day?
every day.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, they're not every day. Yeah.
Yep.
They would be, and sit with myself. Yeah, but that would be covered within the meditation. They're things that I do every single day.
You jump in the ocean every day?
Yeah, every single day. And start the day with yourself. And what I mean by that, it's like, it could be 5 or 10 minutes worth of meditation. Close your eyes, look at a candle, walk down the beach, get some sunlight. Even if it's raining, when I used to be quite nuts with this one, where it's like even pissing down rain in summer, like just go dive into the ocean. Yeah, because it's that feminine energy. It cleanses you. It's like it's there for a reason, right? It's like all the minerals. It's like skin's our largest organ, and like it soaks into the body.
You'll probably be more present too. You'll be like, oh shit, there's rain on my body.
And well, I'm not going to tell you about all the benefits of cold water, but then you add cold water and the ocean on the winter Sunshine Coast. It's like, it's incredible. It just changes your physiology. So they're two really simple things. I've only got 24 seconds. So I've probably gone over there.
Nah, you did well. I was just interested. It's a ghost clock, so.
Yeah. Oh, one more.
Yeah.
I start the day with a warm cup of hot water. 60 degrees. Okay, so this is random, right? And this would be the third pillar.
You just confused me.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because if you imagine, like, during the night, we've got like...
With salt?
Yeah, with salt. Yeah, of course. Pinch of Celtic sea salt per litre of water. Nice. The reason for that is because, and the way I explain it, this is my partner studies Ayurveda, so it's like an Ayurvedic,
cool.
context.
I'm
but
ready.
It's like,
yeah.
If you imagine, you've got like all these different systems that run through the body, and if you imagine, like, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you're somewhat a little bit clogged. It's like I take my mouth the night before, so it's like first thing I get up, I brush my teeth, scrape my tongue, and then once my mouth is clean and I've got all of the gunk and everything like out of my system, because it's cleansing. That's really what I'm doing before I start my day. If you think of like jumping in the ocean, cleansing my thoughts. Another really good tip is like 60 degrees if your kettle can be set to a certain temperature. And you drink that, and that just cleanses out and just cleans out all of the pipes, and you just sip on the water. And the way I explain that to people is like, because when you wash up of a nighttime and you've got a greasy plate, do you use cold water or do you use warm water? Warm. Yeah. So same thing with the body. I want to cleanse the body.
Okay.
So it's like, and it's a really nice way then to go to the toilet and just to allow, it just gets the system firing. Cool. That's actually something that I've only been playing with for like the last 3 months, but I was really, I guess, like, on edge whether like I wanted to do it or not, and then started, and I was like, oh fuck, man, I can't go. Like, this feels really good. Like, it feels nice. So maybe they might be my 3.
Yeah, I like it. And at the end of the day, it's just warm water. You might as well try it. like what's the cost benefit here? It's like,
I don't know why I was so against it. It's like, nah, I got my water bottle there and it's ready, and it's like, it's literally an extra 30 seconds. Tried it, and it's like, in winter, it's beautiful. It's freezing in winter.
True.
You're getting like some nice warm. I'm not telling people boil the jug or boil the kettle and go to 100 degrees and burn your mouth. I'm just saying warm water with a little bit of Celtic sea salt allows the system to cleanse, and it kind of makes sense when you think of it from a dishwashing perspective.
And a lot of Chinese medicine is very collated around like warmth, and like you warm the body. Qi, there you go.
Qi, energy flow.
Yeah. Bro, real quick sidebar. I went to get a blood test the other day just to see where all my levels were at. And the lady goes, oh, have you eaten yet today? I was like, nah, like, have you drunk some water? I was like, yeah, just had like a liter of water with like salt. And she looked at me, bro. She was like, why'd you put salt in your water?
Yeah,
I was like,
idea.
Oh shit, like, people don't do this. Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
And sometimes you might get a little bit alienated for it, like, oh, is that, but that's just their resistance.
I
to
hit
go
her
through
with
at the
some
end of
wisdom
the-
that day,
Yeah,
man.
nice.
I was like, what you talking about?
Sounds like you changed her life. Because salt, and that's a really good thing for the listeners, right? It's like Celtic sea salt has over 40 known minerals in it. And so if you think of water, and I didn't really dive into that before, but if for me personally, I buy my water every single week. Montville Mist or Beerwah Spring Water from Greensmith Grocer or Canara, amazing, fill up your bottles. The next best thing would be to like get a Waters Co filter or something like that, even though I'm of the belief that a filtration system can never actually replicate what nature can. And then so because once upon a time, it's like we set up camps along creeks and things like that, we would have got all the minerals coming down off the water, and it's like really important fact because that's what actually hydrates us. It's not the water, it's the salt. Yeah. Okay. And then the four major components that you find in salt are like your 40 known micro minerals: sodium, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. So they're the things that they're like electrolytes, things that actually keep you hydrated. So yeah.
I like it. I like how you bring things like, this is one of my favorite things to do as well. Like if ever I'm in doubt about like decision, I'm like, how did we evolve?
Yeah.
It's like,
it makes sense.
yeah, yeah. You're like, oh yeah, like back, we'd drink water from the creeks, we'd live off the land, all this stuff. It's like, well, maybe just get back into nature a little bit.
Get back to nature. And like here's another really good tip for people at home listening to this podcast, and maybe they're close by the cupboard. Longer the life, oftentimes worse it is for you because it's going to have more preservatives and things in it. Tin food, packet food. It's like you're getting away, and maybe I guess that's how we started the conversation, man. Like for how we eat at home, it's like everything's fresh. Even lunch, it's like I take 2 clients in the morning, 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I max out at 5 clients a day. I have a 2-hour break at home, and I create a sacred ceremony almost daily with my food at lunchtime, because lunch is the most important meal of my day. It's when the sun's at its highest potential and my digestive system is absolutely firing. It's where like I'm getting all my meats and fruits and colors and everything in. It's like, yeah, you create the life you want, right?
Love it, man. All right, so the clock's back on.
That was a long 24 seconds.
Hey, we're living in the Matrix out here, so we just hit a little pause button. What's your favorite book?
I touched on Man's Search for Meaning before by Viktor Frankl, and that book was dated back to Auschwitz for the concentration camp. So, like when you're over in Germany and you visit like Dachau and places like that, there's a sign on the front of the gate that says, "Work here will set you free." And you walk through and it's like you feel the energy of the place, right? Because you got to think how many millions of people were killed at that point.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of my favorite books because it highlights human history, and we're not that far in since that happened. It was like you're talking the 40s, man. It's 2023.
Yeah, there's still shit going on,
exactly.
around all this type of stuff, like this discrimination and everything going on in the world. It's like
absolutely. So
like
that
madness.
So that book, 12 Rules for Life, by Jordan Peterson. Big fan of Robert Greene's work. There's heaps, man.
Yeah. Nah, sweet. I like it. Now, what's something you wish more people knew about mental health?
Oh, tying back to the 6 foundation principles. It's like, it's pretty obvious to me that mental health right now is at its all time. I'm actually doing a talk on Friday night at a men's health panel, I'm going to really dive into this, which is going to be really cool.
Give us a little.
But I feel as though and once again, I feel like we've just been nailing this all day, but it really does come back to the 6 foundation principles. If you're not nourishing yourself and you're not taking the opportunity to look at where you're at within your life and what you're creating, it's like, of course, your mental health's not going to be like as good as it could be, because you're not you as a person individually within your journey. You're not where you're not where you could be either. So mental health for me, it's like it's a touchy subject, I think, because everyone like views it differently. But for me, like things that people can do are like everything that we've just spoke. Like you do all of the things that I just mentioned, and then come and talk to me about mental health if you're dealing with mental health now. So there's some really key points that a lot of people can do. So
mental health isn't just about mental; it's also everything.
It's
a
everything.
Holistic approach.
It's a holistic, because it's like when people are coming to work with me, I can't work on the physical without working on the mental, emotional, and spiritual. So we're all the one system. So and like I said before, if you want to get to the mental, maybe you attack it from the physical. Maybe you go straight into the mental. No right, no wrong. It's just it's how you want to cater it towards your own life.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned through your ribs injury? We didn't get into it, I know, but we're not going to get there.
No, we're not going to get there. But long story short for the listeners, jiu-jitsu injury. 10 months off the mats, one of the darkest points in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the darkest points in my life, because it was for the first time. Like I was trying to start a business, and I've got clients that I need to attend to, and I need to attend to myself. And so what did the rib injury teach me? It taught me presence. It taught me the only way out is through. Okay. And what I mean by that, it's like you either deal with it now or deal with it later. Either way, it must be dealt with. Okay. And that's the energy that you're holding. Long story short, I went and seen one of my mentors, and she actually tied together for me. I lost my granddad about a year and a little bit ago now, and then I competed in the jiu-jitsu comp about 3 to 4 weeks after that. And she was saying to me, "Did you have any, close relatives or in family, or did something happen?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, like lost my granddad," and she tied together that oftentimes rib injuries that they correlate directly towards unprocessed grief. Something happening towards loved ones. And so for me, man, over the course of that 10 months, it was to really like to sit still. And even now, it's still not...
It's teaching you to process it all.
It's teaching me to process it all. And it's teaching me the journey that my clients go through. It's like now almost like any client that comes and sees me, it's like I have more empathy with them. I have more compassion. Like I understand what they're going through, because I also had to go through something traumatic within myself. Yeah, so that's what it taught me.
Nice, man.
I was my own client. You
were your own client.
Yeah.
And you outsourced help from
always, man.
your friends as well.
You always have to outsource, yeah. I don't have all the answers, especially not with myself. I can oftentimes see the bullshit within other people, but sometimes it's hard to see within yourself.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Can we just say that's a fact? That's it. It's just a fact. Cool. I've got 2 more questions. What's one piece of advice that's really stuck with you over the years? What's one that just comes to mind?
I don't know whether to go really deep to finish it off.
Hit it. Come on. Yeah, go deep for me.
Maybe it's the fact, and everyone knows this, right? But it's like the truth sets you free. And what I mean by that, it's like your intrinsic truth sets you free. I had to follow my own truth and my own intuition to start this business and go study for 3 years under all these different institutes and organizations to then come together. And without that initial leap, like leaving all of those major oil and gas and mining companies, I would have never actually been in this position to begin with. So maybe it's like the truth definitely sets you free. There's no doubt about that. But I always say to clients, not until it's finished with you. And I had to go through that big process of like rock bottom before my rib to then be like, okay, fuck it. If it kills me, all good. It needs to be done anyway. And there's an essence to the truth. And when you're in it as well, like yesterday, I think I mentioned before the podcast started, like I had 5 clients in a row from like 1 till 6 or something. And I get in such a flow state when I'm with it. And I lose myself in time. And that's how I know I'm, to some extent, like I'm doing the work that I was put here to do. And I truly believe that.
I love that, man. I really like that. I think if you live alignment with your truth, then that's just like the most powerful thing you do. But it's also probably one of the most courageous things you can do, because there's so much judgment in the world as well. It's like, I remember I remember watching a documentary on, what's his name, who plays in The Truman Show? The main actor?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Jim, maybe? I don't know, I forget. That's really strange. But anyway, yeah, he literally was talking about like, I'm always like playing a character, and I could either keep playing this character, or I could take a chance on like being loved or hated for who I really am and really step into my truth. And that is where he can find more like happiness, because he's more aligned to who he really is, because otherwise he can only be loved for this facade that he's putting up. And it's just like, it's never, there's always going to be disconnect, because who you really are and who you're putting out to the world is separate. And it's just, I don't know. It's just a thought that came.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Another one, like while it comes to mind that I think really stems in alignment with the truth as well. And it's a really great book actually by Ryan Holiday, but it was called The Obstacle Is the Way. And I think that's something that took me a lot of years to really understand. It's like the journey's never easy. It's never just you blink and it's over. It's a long, treacherous journey, but it's so worth it at the end. And any obstacle that comes your way, like the rib injury, like starting the business, like getting overflowing with clients, it's like that is the obstacle, and therefore that is the way.
Yeah, definitely. Stoicism's where it's at, man. Stoicism literally changed my life, huh? And the final question I got is, what's your favorite song?
Oh man, I actually don't have one. Yeah,
What's like a song that you like? It's like judgment. Someone's gonna judge you for this.
I'll try and tie this together as quickly as I can, because I guess we spoke to
It's a simple question.
Yeah.
Man.
We spoke at the start about like why my dream currently at the moment is like some type of a homestead farm to play, like family, they're my values and ethics and things like that. When I spent time in Peru with plant medicine, on the way home, the retreat that I was at, they send you the Icaros, which is like the ancestral spirit of the shaman singing to you during an ayahuasca ceremony.
Whoa.
So this is deep. Okay, so this is my favorite song.
Okay.
Because when I was out working for all of these big companies at the worst point in my life, I was driving. I had like a bit of a driving job where I had to go and do inspections and like boring shit where it's like my soul is fading away. And on the way to site, right, and this happened like over the course of a year, I would play that song every single day, and it went for about 7 minutes, and it would transcend me back towards that state when I was in Peru.
Wow.
Okay. And with that motivation, then I would take that into my life. So that would be my favorite song because of what it gave me.
Yeah, it put you into state.
It put me into state. It gave me guidance and sent me on the trajectory.
I love it, man. First of all, just thank you so much. We're pretty much done, man.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, that was like an hour and a half of your life that you just kind of shared with people. So
it's cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. And I can really tell how much passion you have for what you do and how much knowledge you have. And I think it's going to be really valuable for the world. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing working with you and just seeing how you go, building your dream, and cheering for you, man. So
yeah, as you, man, I'm interested to see how you go towards yours as well.
I'm just taking one step. I can't see around the corner yet. Don't know what I'm doing.
Well, we're all just taking one step at the end of the day. Yeah, all different steps, but all one step. So yeah, thanks heaps for having me on, man. That was super fun. So
I always go out with gratitude. So one thing that you are most grateful for in your life right now, and then we're done.
All that I've created. Yeah, and all that I will continue to create. Yeah, that's gratitude to me. Yeah, just life in general. Like what an experience. Like with the fact that we're sitting here across from each other, two microphones in a podcast room. That I don't need to be any more grateful than that. That's amazing.